Rick Harrison's story begins far from the glare of television lights in a life defined more by instability than certainty. Born into a military family, he grew up without the comfort of permanence, moving from place to place as his father's assignments dictated. There was no steady hometown, no lasting circle of childhood friends, and no single environment long enough to feel like home. From an early age, life taught him that stability was temporary and that adaptation was survival. What might have broken a quieter personality instead forged a restless observer who learned to watch, listen, and understand the world rather than simply live comfortably within it. A childhood marked by epilepsy and isolation. At 8 years old, Rick Harrison experienced his first epileptic seizure, a moment that changed how he was seen and how he saw himself. In an era less informed about neurological conditions, epilepsy carried misunderstanding and stigma. For a child already moving constantly between schools, it deepened the sense of separation. Concentration became difficult, academic environments felt unwelcoming, and social belonging remained elusive. Yet within this isolation, he developed an internal world built on reading and curiosity. Instead of relying on structured schooling, he absorbed history, biographies, and strategy, forming an education shaped not by classrooms, but by persistence and self-direction. Self-education and the decision to leave school. By his teenage years, Rick Harrison had already grown disillusioned with formal education. Constant relocation and health challenges made traditional schooling feel fragmented and unproductive. At 17, he made the decision to drop out of high school, a moment seen externally as failure, but internally as clarity. He was not abandoning learning. He was abandoning systems that no longer fit his reality. In Las Vegas, a city defined by risk and reinvention, he began to understand value in ways textbooks never explained. People, objects, and opportunity all became lessons in judgment, negotiation, and perception. The pawn shop that became a beginning. In 1988, Rick's father, Richard Harrison Sr., opened the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. It was not a glamorous enterprise, but a modest, uncertain venture in a rough area of the city. Rick joined him behind the counter, stepping into a world where every item had a story and every transaction carried emotional weight. The shop attracted people in financial distress, bringing in objects tied to desperation, memory, and necessity. What began as a small family business would become the foundation of Rick's understanding of value, negotiation, and human behavior under pressure. Learning value through hard reality. Working in the pawn shop was an education in itself. Rick Harrison learned quickly that valuation was not just about price, but about knowledge, timing, and psychology. Coins, watches, military relics, and collectibles passed through his hands daily, each requiring careful assessment. Mistakes carried real financial consequences, and intuition alone was never enough. Over time, he built a reputation for accuracy and fairness, earning trust in a business often viewed with skepticism. Behind the glass counter, he was not just a shopkeeper, but a student of human behavior, studying what people needed versus what they believed they owned. Family, fatherhood, and the weight of responsibility. Rick's personal life unfolded alongside the growing demands of the pawn shop. His first marriage brought 2 sons, Corey and Adam, but the pressures of financial instability and long working hours strained family balance. Later relationships brought periods of stability and additional children, but none were untouched by the demands of his work. Fatherhood for Rick became a constant negotiation between presence and provision. While he worked to build a future for his children, he often faced the reality that time spent building that future was time taken away from their daily lives and emotional presence. From local shop to recognizable institution. Through the 1990s and early 2000s, the gold and silver pawn shop grew steadily. Its reputation expanded beyond local customers as word spread about Rick's knowledge and straightforward dealing style. The shop became a destination for collectors, historians, and curious visitors. Each transaction reinforced its credibility. What had once been a struggling family business evolved into a stable enterprise rooted in expertise and trust. Rick's ability to evaluate items quickly and accurately set the shop apart in a competitive environment, slowly transforming it from a neighborhood pawn store into a recognizable name within Las Vegas commerce. The arrival of fame through Pawn Stars. In 2009, everything changed with the debut of Pawn Stars on the History Channel. What executives expected to be a niche documentary-style program instead became a cultural phenomenon. Audiences were drawn to the authenticity of the shop, the dynamic between Rick, his father, and his son Corey, and the unpredictable nature of each item brought in. Unlike scripted reality television, the show relied on real negotiations and real artifacts. Rick's calm, analytical approach made him the central figure, and the pawn shop itself became one of the most visited attractions in Las Vegas. Fame, pressure, and the loss of privacy. With success came visibility, and with visibility came scrutiny. The shop transformed into both a workplace and a filming location, blurring the boundaries between business and entertainment. Visitors arrived in large numbers, sometimes overwhelming the daily operations. At the same time, public attention dissected every aspect of the show, from valuations to authenticity. Rick adapted by maintaining consistency in his approach, but privately, the balance between television persona and real-life businessman became increasingly complex. Fame amplified success, but it also reduced privacy, making even ordinary moments feel observed and interpreted. Family strain and the complexity of legacy. As the show progressed, family dynamics became part of the public narrative. Corey Harrison grew into a central figure, learning the business under his father's guidance while also navigating expectations tied to the Harrison name. Other family members and colleagues experienced both opportunity and pressure as visibility increased. Rick often reflected on the difficulty of balancing ambition with fatherhood, acknowledging that building something significant often required sacrifices that could not be easily undone. The pawn shop became not just a business, but a shared legacy shaped by both success and emotional complexity. Losses that redefined everything. The death of Rick's father in 2018 marked a profound emotional turning point. Richard Harrison Sr. had been both a parent and a foundational partner in the business. Years later, in 2024, Rick faced another devastating loss with the death of his son Adam. These events reshaped his perspective on success, value, and permanence. Financial achievement and public recognition suddenly felt secondary to personal loss. Grief became a constant presence rather than a passing stage, altering how he approached work, relationships, and time itself. Enduring presence. Behind the counter. Despite decades of change, Rick Harrison continues to work at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, a place that remains both a business and a symbol of his life's journey. His fortune, fame, and recognition have not removed the grounding reality of the counter where it all began. Today, his focus has shifted toward family, reflection, and presence rather than expansion. The lessons of loss have softened ambition into perspective. His story is no longer just about building an empire, but about understanding what remains meaningful after everything measurable has already been achieved.